It's quite an honor to be standing in front of so many beautiful and knowledgeable people. I would like to share a story today about how a small town boy from Asheboro, North Carolina is now finding his way here at UNC Greensboro. I'm one of 8 children, all raised by a single mother. My mother, who is in the audience today, go ahead and stand up, Mom. My mother has taught me almost everything, including this deep Southern drawl you're currently hearing. As you can imagine, being a single mother with 8 kids, life was hard when I was a child. My father, he left when I was 2 years old and found himself going in and out of multiple jails and prisons all throughout the East Coast. My mother, though being one of the most intelligent people that I know, never graduated high school, and so had a difficult time finding a job to support all of her children. I remember spending most of my childhood driving around on various school and city buses that my mother drove because she did not have enough money to send us to a daycare while she worked. And nobody was going to be willing to watch 8 kids for multiple hours, much less a few minutes while she performed her duties. My mother worked hard to earn all that she could and try to give us the best possible life she could. Many nights for dinner, my mother, she would go to McDonald's and buy 2 $1 cheeseburgers, which she'd split each one into 4s, and she'd give us each a 4th. And that's what we had many nights for dinner. Of course, being a kid, I didn't realize how poor my family was. We all assumed everybody lived the same life that we did. In 2006, my mother decided it was time to make a change. She saved up all the money she could for over a year and enrolled into real estate school and obtained her GED. She would tell me that this was one of the hardest things she ever had to do. Being a full-time student, a full-time employee, and a full-time mother all at once. She studied every night preparing for her final exam in order to obtain her broker's license. She knew she only had one chance. She knew that if she failed her final exam, she would never be able to save up the time and money to do it again. In her class, there were over 200 aspiring realtors. Only 2 ended up passing their final exam. My mother was one of those 2. She started developing business in Randolph County and quickly rose to the ranks, becoming one of Randolph County's best brokers. She joined Remax Central Realty in Asheboro, and finally, after 30 years of her life, she was able to purchase her first home. Life was immediately better for us. It seemed my family had caught a huge break. And then 2008 happened. The housing market crashed, and my mother lost all her income. The house she sacrificed all her efforts for to buy for her children was foreclosed on. We lost everything. The 2008 recession had the biggest effect on me. I did not understand why my mother lost her income. I did not understand why my family had to move out of the big home we loved so much. I did not understand what people meant on TV using phrases such as predatory lending, foreclosures, and housing bubbles. The dream my mother had for her future was basically over, and it frustrated me why I had no idea why the recession even happened. And so, I set myself on a mission to learn about the economy and possibly try to find a way to prevent future recessions from happening again. It was in this process that I discovered I had a passion and love for economics. I was in the 7th grade when I decided that I was going to go to college and study economics. This wasn't too much of a surprise to my mother. You see, I'd always been at the top of my class academically, and she always told me she wanted me to go to college in order to become what she called a success. You see, an education in my family, a college education, had been non-existent. My mother dropped out of high school, my father dropped out of middle school, and nobody in 5 generations on either side of my family had ever been past high school. And so I never really had anybody to look up to for education. And so I worked hard in high school, and I started applying to colleges my senior year with a 4.0 GPA and being at the top of my class. However, there was still one problem: tuition. UNC Greensboro was always the place I wanted to go to. It was close to home, and I could keep the jobs and connections that I'd developed while I was in high school. But my family was not going to be able to afford to send me to a university. I was completely reliant on the possibility of earning a scholarship. When the Bryan School informed me that I had earned the Blue and Gold Scholarship. The Blue and Gold Scholarship. For those who do not know what the Blue and Gold Scholarship is, that is one of the most prestigious scholarships that UNCG has to offer. It was almost like the Bryan School was saying, "Joshua, we want you." They wanted the poor small town kid from Asheboro, North Carolina. When they told me that I had earned that scholarship, my dream had come true. I was going to be able to go to college. I was going to be able to break the shackles of poverty that plagued my family for generations. And most importantly, I was going to be able to go to college in order to become what my mother had always called a success. But if you ask my mom what being a success means, you'll get a different answer than you might expect. According to my mother, success isn't fame, it isn't money or materialistic things, but something more. In our living room when I was a kid, and to this day, my mother had this big black sign hung up on our wall. The sign had a quote on it by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The quote talks about life and what it means to be a success. My mother never told me why she had chosen this particular quote, but I think it's applicable to today's event. The quote reads, "What is success? To laugh often and much. To win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children. To earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends. To appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know that one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to be a success." Donors, I want to thank each and every one of you. We all here are grateful for your contributions and investments, not only to the Bryan School, but to future generations of scholars. I want you all to know that in the eyes of my mother and in the heart of myself, you are all a success. My life My education, my future has been made easier because of all of you. All of us here, including myself, we deeply, deeply thank you for investing in us. Thank you. Thank you. I sometimes reflect on my father. I see the path that he chose, and I see a path I could have easily have fallen into. But I didn't. It was people like my mother, like my educators, and like all of you that gave me a chance to do something more, something greater, and to perhaps help one life breathe easier. Perhaps one way for me to do so is to learn from the example y'all have set, and in the future become a donor to the Bryan School myself, so that I too can possibly help another small town kid desperate for financial assistance. Because to help others, just like all of you have helped all of us, that is to be a success. Thank you.